This budget is certainly not about the lack of money. There's a lot of money washing around at the moment, and it's probably unprecedented, the level of surpluses in the financial coffers of the state. And it probably even got better for the government when 13.8 billion euros landed on the government's table, even though the government spent, I think, 10 million euros trying to defend the decision not to get it. So it's a very, very good day for the government. And I think, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, cost of living inflation has eroded a lot of workers' income and standard of living, and that has had a huge effect in terms of how workers, see themselves in relative terms. And there's grave inequalities, ministers, in terms of housing, health, and in terms of income, and they're systemic in society. And I think you need political will to really, really challenge them systemic kind of them forces in society. And you just have to look at housing, and housing will be the key issue. It was the key issue in terms of the last election. It will be the key issue in this coming election, where you have 15,000 people in emergency accommodation. We have like tens of thousands of people waiting to go on a public housing list. These are, these are kind of situations that I don't feel, and I think a lot of people in the opposition feel, that the present administration can't address, because it comes back to will, it comes back to political choices that people have. Just in terms of income, Minister, and there's one issue. Look, a tax is a reality. You know, we all pay tax, and taxes are progressive in most cases. But there's one tax that I think a lot of people feel very, very, very aggrieved in this country. It's called the universal social charge. The universal social charge was a temporary measure during the crisis, now to pay off basically the bad debts and the bad policies of Fianna Fáil. But why are people still paying universal social charge? You know, why? You know, just ask, a lot of people really just don't find this tax odious in terms of why that they continue to have to pay this particular tax. Just in terms of health inequalities, and I do kind of acknowledge the Minister's statement about progress in terms of the health service. Look, I think sometimes you have to put party political stuff, sometimes aside when you see progress in terms of health. And that's good. But there's also kind of health inequalities that still exist to this day. 50% of the population still have to rely on private health insurance. Why? Why is that the case? There should be just one health service rather than a two-tier health services where it actually is based in income. Because if you have enough money in your pocket, you can get the treatment that you want. But if you're working class and you're on kind of low income, you have to wait, and sometimes you have to wait for years. Now, that's a grave inequality that has to be addressed. And in terms of what Deputy Ward said about the overall budget around mental health, we still haven't not got to the level of what kind of mental health reform has said, that we need to get 10% of the overall budget. That at this moment in time, it's still 6%. So we're well below where it should go. And that's a fault line in our health service that has to be addressed. Just finally, ministers, will you ever see kind of levels of this surplus again? Who knows? We've seen a huge surplus about 15, 16 years ago, then it all went south after that. But I think this is an historical opportunity to address them grave inequalities in terms of housing, health, incomes, and can they be addressed? I feel, and I think, as I said, many in the opposition do not feel, as long as Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are in power, we will always have these systemic inequalities in our society, because it comes down to choice. It comes down to what forces that you look at. Do you look at the forces of the free market and capitalism, or the forces of putting people before profit? And that's why I think this opportunity has failed.